Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's virtual plant clinic. My name is Bill Lester. I'm with University of Florida Extension in Hernando County. And here today, like almost always, is my regular co-host, Lily Browning. Good morning, Lily. How are you?
Good morning, Bill. I'm great. How are you?
Very good. And we were just talking that Lily most likely will not be with us next Thursday.
Correct.
So
I have,
either you get me or I find a guest and you get me and somebody else. But somebody will be on here next Thursday at 10 a.m. for your questions.
yes, I have another commitment. I have Leadership Hernando that I have to participate in. No, I'm not one of the people considered in the leadership. I get to stand there and tell them what our department and what Florida Friendly Landscaping does. So
That sounds really exciting.
I get to drudge all this stuff up to the courthouse, set it up, stand and smile, talk to
Hmm.
people. That's the exciting part is talking to people. And then they move on to their next session and we break everything down and roll down the hill and repack the van and come back here. So
Like I said, that sounds really exciting. But I know next week you and I get to travel to all kinds of different
we
places. What are
are
we doing? What are we doing
we've
next week?
got so much stuff coming up. First off, tomorrow you and I will be providing a virtual lunch and learn
Yes, we will at high noon.
at high noon. I'm trying to look at my calendar here. Um, trying to put it on Monday. There we go. Tomorrow at noon, Dr. Lester and I will be talking about springing into Florida friendly landscaping. Good morning, Miss M. And Dr. Lester will have a portion of spring veggie. But you have any kind of fruits discussions too? No, we're just
I
doing
think
veg-
just vegetables.
Okay. Then next week we are packed. We hit the road, don't we?
Yes,
Um,
we do.
on Tuesday we'll be at Silverthorne to that community there. If you live in Silverthorne, we'll be there. What time? Noon.
Noon, yes.
At
And
your
don't forget, Monday morning at 10:30, we're going to be live on Facebook Live talking about greenhouses with Angela Reed, who is one of our master gardeners, who's going to give all the basics of a backyard homeowner type greenhouse, the things you need to keep in mind if you're building one.
cool. Well, see, that wasn't on my calendar, but yes. So Monday,
Uh-huh.
tomorrow, spring gardening. Monday, greenhouses. Tuesday, you and I will hit the road, be at Silverthorne at noon. If you live in that community, we're going to be talking about saving water, in your landscape, how to take care of the lawn better and your landscape plants. Wednesday, the 8th, I have a 2:30 class at Hernando Spring Hill Library, Spring Hill Branch Library. Much Ado About Mulch. That has, for a while there, it was going to be 10, but it got changed to 2:30. Not the library's fault. That was my fault. There's a funeral I want to go to at 10:30. So
Okay.
yeah. So 2:30, Hernando Spring Hill Branch Library on Spring Hill Drive.
Hey, I got
Thursday,
one for Wednesday.
do you?
Yes, Wednesday at 10 a.m., we are going to have an online class all about growing citrus.
Cool.
And I have a special guest speaker who is a multi-county extension agent down in Southwest Florida to talk all about how to care for your citrus trees and citrus greening at 10 a.m. on Wednesday morning. You have to register in advance, but it's free. It's free online.
Cool. Citrus is making a comeback.
Yes, it
Fantastic.
is.
Thursday, you will be at the plant clinic like you are now. I will
Hmm.
be at Leadership Hernando. Friday, you and I are going to the community of Wellington
Yes, we
to
are.
talk to the Midwest Club. But apparently, here's a secret I learned about the Midwest Club.
Hmm.
They're inviting anyone in. If you live in the
You don't
Wellington.
have to be. Well, how? Maybe they start quizzing you, asking you
Maybe.
Midwest kind of questions.
If you don't answer with "Don't you know," you might not get in. I'm not sure,
Okay.
but
I
then
spoke to the Tri-State Club once before, which was New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, and they all had accents. So maybe that was the requirement.
It could be. That's just next week. Then the following week we have a bunch of stuff, but I don't want to confuse.
That's enough.
Yes, yes. And I may or may not be in Citrus County on Saturday the 11th, talking about bird escaping at the Lecanto cannery. But that is still subject to approval from the powers that be in Citrus County. So
if you're allowed in, or
if the class is going to happen, I don't know. They have apparently a lot more checks and balances. You and I just like, we're going to do a class. Let's do it. But,
yeah.
So
What the nice thing about online ones is you just do it. So
yes, we've been able.
I was here on Facebook Live. When was it? Just today is Thursday. It must have been Tuesday, and showed how to prune a very pretty overgrown Cuban oregano plant.
Yep.
And how to take the clippings and turn them into cuttings to start new plants. And I took the leaves and I dried them yesterday in my dehydrator.
You kept asking for comments. So when I was watching on my phone, I did not see where I could put a comment that you would see immediately. So that might be an issue. Maybe if you're watching on a laptop or something, you're able to throw in a comment that you can see, but I didn't see how to do that. So I just kept sending you.
Facebook Live changes every time we do it. And if I try to do it with our iPad, it takes me into Facebook Video Producer, and you don't want to go there. That's very, very confusing, and it doesn't like the camera. Now, if I use my new phone, just click, 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 and you can go right in, and you're in there live. You put in a description. So the takeaway message is keep following our Facebook, because we just go live whenever we have the free time and something to talk about.
I wanted to throw all kind of questions at you, but I didn't figure out how, so I just kept sending likes and hearts. So probably all the likes and hearts you were getting was Nora and I.
I don't think Teresa blocked you, so that shouldn't have been a problem.
Not on purpose, anyway, huh?
But yeah, we haven't done that for a while, and we're going to start doing that a lot more often. I started making little Facebook Reels for anybody who watches them. So be warned that you're going to have more of me in your Facebook feed, hopefully. Just keep scrolling. Just scroll right by if you don't want to watch. But
I answered a phone call on our water conservation line. It was a new resident, and he was asking questions about watering and the watering restrictions, and did they apply to everybody? We love when people do ask these questions rather than just assuming. And got into a conversation with him of how to do the catch can test to make sure he's putting the proper amount of water down. And I referred him, since he said he was new and didn't know anything, to our Hernando County government YouTube, and to look at the playlist there. And he said he wrote that down and he was going to go there. And he said, thank you so much, and you've been so knowledgeable, because he really only expected a yes or no answer. And what I didn't say is, oh, wait, when you get to that YouTube, you'll have all the me you ever wanted and more.
You can binge watch if you want for a whole weekend, probably.
Probably.
Well, each one's about an hour. You got over 100 hours worth of programming on there. So
yes. Yep. Can't say we're not providing the information out there.
Exactly.
Hey, I want you to see what Teresa has to say here. She will never block me. I will never block you, Teresa. We love Teresa.
Couldn't make it through the day without Teresa. So, hey, everybody, it looks like at least 6 people are on here right now. If y'all have any questions, comments, anything, lawn and landscape questions, gardening questions, vegetable gardening, palm trees.
She might block you. You see that?
Well, then you get a blank screen because I'm the only one that stands in front of the camera around here. So, but if y'all have any questions, just go ahead and put them in the comments, and we will either give you an answer or find you an answer one way or another.
Yep. Hello, everyone. Facebook user. I wonder if Facebook user is Corey today.
Could be. We've had twitchy issues with Facebook. If you watch us on our Facebook page and you make a comment, we should be able to see what your name is. If you're watching through our Facebook group, you have to, when you log on or about to log on, you go to the bottom and click to give Facebook permission to show your name. So technically, you can watch us in our Facebook group and come on here and watch us live and stay anonymous if you want to.
So I'm not sure if this Facebook user's name is Garden Millipedes, or if Garden Millipedes are watching us, or if this person has a question regarding Garden Millipedes. Probably the third one.
Yeah, my guess is a question about garden millipedes. Millipedes don't hurt anything.
Nope.
They do, if it's a true millipede, they do just eat vegetation, but it's mostly decaying.
You can find them in your mulched beds.
It's Alicia. So millipedes are not particularly friend, not particularly foe. It is a part of the natural environment.
They're what we categorize under harmless.
Yeah.
They're just hanging out, not particularly, well, they're helping the vegetation decay, so they're doing that job for us, and they are being a food source in the food chain.
It's technically a recycler. You shouldn't have many of them. If anybody goes outside right now and looks long and hard, you're going to find a millipede, but you don't normally have a lot.
They tend to show up at my front door because there's a mulched bed there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and they look scary, but there's nothing.
Every once in a while, during the height of summer, if we get a lot of rain, we'll get a few phone calls from people that just have an outbreak of them. Something causes a population to go through the roof. And it's mostly heat and water, so it always happens July or August.
Mm-hmm.
Even then, they're not a problem. It's not a household pest. They're not going to hurt you. They're not going to hurt anything. If you ignore them, they'll go away in a week or two.
Those little legs, kind of the way they move, are kind of freaky, but kind of creepy. We have a program on that, don't we? On Hernando County government YouTube, Creepy Crawlies. We did that the end of October, if you go back and look. And I believe
for Halloween.
For Halloween, we did Creepy Crawlies. It was a good program. It was pretty cool. You should go back and watch it. It was good.
As you're binge watching over 100 hours of Lily's programming. And I have quite a bit on there too. I need to send more off to John to get done.
And here we go.
And Teresa put up a post to a UF fact sheet on millipedes.
Annoying but important. I think I'm going to adopt that mantra. I am annoying but important. How's that?
That covers a few things at work, I think, and probably applies to a few things at home too, but annoying yet important.
Millipedes aren't even annoying. It's really just ignore them and, step over them and go on your day. Alicia had them in her raised bed, and she put diatomaceous earth in the bed because she has tons of them. They are white and planting Norland potatoes. Are millipedes white, or is that some kind of grub that she might have?
That may be a grub. If what you're looking at has 6 legs up near the front end, it's an immature beetle or a grub. That's the common name for them. If it is something that has a whole bunch of legs that are in pairs, I think, I'm trying to remember the difference between millipedes and centipedes, then that's a millipede or a centipede. Either way, if you can get some pictures and email them, it'd be a lot easier to tell exactly what it is. And even beetle grubs, as a general rule, are not a pest. People flip out when they find them in their yard, or they start digging a hole in the ground, or repotting a plant, and they see some beetle grubs. Yeah, they're out there. As long as you don't have too many, that's not really a major problem.
Mhm.
And oh my goodness, we have a whole bunch of questions all rolling in here. Monique asked, do you know how well cucumbers do in pots? I got Bush Space Master cukes, and they've already sprouted for 3 days. Cucumbers can grow very well in pots. You need a 3-gallon to a 5-gallon pot for pretty much one cucumber plant. If it's 3-gallon, only one. 5-gallon, you can push and get probably 2 in there. So cucumbers can do very, very well in pots. The Bush Space Master doesn't climb and roll all over your yard.
That's what I was going to ask about. Aren't they going to escape the pot?
The old varieties, but there's a lot of newer varieties that are bush cucumber, or they're bred to be small plants. They don't take up a lot of room. It's for small gardens or container gardens.
How big will those cucumbers get?
Normal size.
Really?
They make normal size cucumbers. And Bassem asks, how to get rid of nematodes naturally? That's a tough one. There's a few things you could do.
Raised beds, different soil, move somewhere else. Yes.
Yeah. There really are no chemical controls available to homeowners. You can try solarizing in the summer. If you look up soil solarization, University of Florida has a lot of fact sheets on that. I don't think we've done a class on that, though. We'll have to do that.
That's a good thing to do, because all summer we can't plant much here. We have limited crops that we can plant as far as edible crops. So that is a good time to put that clear plastic down and fry those babies in there all summer long. And then in August, start preparing it for your fall garden.
Yes, solarization mostly, it kills some, but it chases the rest of them away. And they'll come back, but you end up with a kind of a free period where it's safe to garden. You're not going to have that many problems.
They do that up north during their non-gardening times. They do it even in the winter. I think I've known people, they use glass, like literal glass panels, they put over their gardens just for any of the non-feral, non-growing times, the farrow times, and whatever sun does get through for that that long period of time, they consider it solarizing the soil. I knew somebody who did that, who just bought a bunch of old window panes and set up a system.
Well, you can make a cold frame, which is like a miniature greenhouse on the ground.
Maybe that's what he was doing, because he was planting early and didn't want them to freeze too.
People up north do that. It's where you build a box on the ground. And what works best is if you can get an old storm door, a glass storm door, and that's the lid. You lift it up, put your trays of starter seedlings and everything in there, lower it down. You have to regulate the temperature, otherwise it'll get too hot during the day.
Right.
But it's a box that's warm, so when it gets cold at night, it stays fairly warm. If it's going to get really cold, you throw a blanket over it, and that helps to keep it warm. We don't have much use for it down here because we have so few nights where it gets cold.
Right. But could you could do the same thing to solarize, but that would be an expensive way when you could just get the plastic. Yeah.
Yeah, in other states, nematodes aren't nearly as big of a problem.
Because they
Every
freeze.
state has some nematodes that are a big problem, but we have a whole bunch of species here.
Because we don't have permafrost.
Winter.
Nothing. Yeah, we don't have winter. All those organisms in that soil They're staying alive, staying alive. Woo, woo, woo.
And we do have winter, and apparently it's supposed to last a little bit longer. That beaver or whatever it is up in Pennsylvania.
He's a groundhog.
Oh, it looks like a beaver.
No, he looks like a groundhog. Phil,
Yeah, we don't have groundhogs in Florida that I know of. I'm not the natural resources guy here. So.
Yeah, I've never seen one. They are becoming an invasive species in Pennsylvania. There was a period of time when, I would visit up there every summer and I would kill at least one, and not on purpose. They're just all over the place, like on the road and stuff. So it's been a while since I have killed a groundhog. Isn't that good to know? But
Well, I wonder if they're any good on the grill.
I don't know. I have not tried that.
We need to have somebody on here to give recipe suggestions for iguanas
There you go.
because we do have them in Florida.
And you're welcome for bringing Linda into your Master Gardener program, by the way, with my Florida-friendly outreach. No, Corey, you actually show up as Corey today.
Yes, Corey, we do see your name associated with it now. So
You've got other...
and we have Teresa hard at work sharing links here about growing vegetables in containers, soil solarization. So go ahead and keep an eye on the different links that Teresa's sharing for more information on all those different.
And you can always go back when Bill and I both share this again, on our Facebook pages, and you can see the comments, correct? So I think you can find,
Yes,
you can see
yes.
the comments. So you can find the links by going back, if they're going by too quickly for you right now.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing you can do? You can go to your friend Google and put in soil solarization space UF for University of Florida. Put in whatever subject you're looking for, UF, and you will find that research-based scientific information from your land-grant university that is not trying to sell you anything.
That is exactly what I do. That's how I find these things.
Mm-hmm.
So Corey, going back to nematodes, he has all the different suggestions here that will help limit the number of nematodes you have. There's really no options that will guarantee that you'll get rid of all the nematodes and they'll never come back.
These are pretty good ideas, though.
Yeah.
Increasing the organic matter. They don't like rich soil for some reason.
That helps.
Solarizing, as you said, plant nematode-resistant crops. Yes.
That helps a lot.
Mm-hmm. A healthy plant is going to produce well, whether there are nematodes there or not. It's really the weaker ones that are susceptible to insects, diseases, things such as that. I'm not sure about the marigolds, but that is, you can answer that one.
That does work. Not any marigolds are going to work. It has to be a special, technically French marigolds, which I believe are a slightly different species or variety of marigold. And you have to grow a bunch. It makes a good cover crop. So if you grow a bunch in a garden bed, grow them to maturity, just to the point where they're flowering, chop them down, turn them under, roots and all, and let them compost. When they're breaking down, they release a chemical that nematodes hate. It will drive them away and help to kind of sanitize your soil to a certain extent.
Now, why don't you explain what nematodes are to people who may not have the slightest clue what a nematode is?
Sure, they are microscopic, bilaterally symmetrical roundworms that live in the soil. Some of them just eat bacteria and fungi in the soil, so they're beneficial, they're good, they're recycling. Mm-hmm. Other ones eat bad nematodes, so they're little predators, and that's good. But some species of nematodes feed on plants and damage plant roots, So your tomato plant starts to look bad. It wilts by noon. It's not producing. It's dying back. When you pull the plant up, when it's all done, if you see the big knobs and knots on the roots, those are root knot nematodes. And we have other nematodes here besides them.
Mhm.
So they
And the
can't be
golf
impacted if
courses,
you have them in your soil.
golf courses have issues with nematodes in their Bermuda grass. And
Golf courses, strawberry producers in Plant City have
mhm.
problems with sting nematodes and other ones. So like I said, there's a lot of different species. Ring nematodes can be a turf grass pest.
So
We
you said they're
rarely see that.
microscopic, so you're not going to see them with your eye.
Exactly. You can't just look, that's what microscopic is. You can't see them.
I was just making sure, because if you pull stuff
Yeah.
up and you see stuff wiggling in there, and you might say, "Oh, look at the nematodes." No, that's not what you're seeing then.
Exactly. So if you email me and you say that you see a lot of nematodes in your garden, what do? What you're seeing probably isn't nematodes, it's something else. So going back to potatoes, diatomaceous earth doesn't hurt anything. It is effective to a certain extent on certain things.
She mentioned, go back to that. It said something about 7 to 10 years. Did they mean to? Did you mean years or did you mean weeks? Because things
Probably
move
my guess is 7 to 10 days.
days. I was going to say, because things move extraordinarily quickly through our soil because of its porosity for one thing, and because of all those organisms in there are staying alive. So they're always little Pac-Man eating stuff up all the time.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
like you always say, for vegetable gardens, you can, fertilize or put down compost or manure, whatever, up north, and you're good to go for 2-3 years.
Couple years, yeah.
Yeah. Down here, that is not the case. It's going to be gone.
Yeah, couple months to a year or so until your soil starts to go back to whatever it was initially, sandiness wise.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a question about growing lettuce in the shade. Mine gets bitter in the sunlight even during winter in Hernando County. Technically, lettuce likes full sun, although it will take some shade. So leafy vegetables will take some shade. Things that produce a fruit, like late, once we get into spring, tomatoes, peppers, squash, things like that, they need full sun.
8 to 10 hours full sun.
Yeah, lettuce, you have to get it to sprout in the middle of winter, come up, grow fast, pick it and eat it. Otherwise, it will try to bolt and get bitter. And your lettuce should be finishing up over the next month or so. So, guys, don't try growing lettuce and cabbage and broccoli into March and April and May. If you send me an email about that, I'm just going to shake my head and you'll get an answer once I'm done shaking my head. But those things have to be grown during the winter when it's chilly, it's cool, the days are short, the sun's not as high in the sky. So, no,
What
please.
does bolt mean?
Bolt means the plant is naturally trying to flower and go to seed. So your little lettuce plant all of a sudden now has this big stem that shoots like a couple feet up into the air. Little flowers. It flowers. Bees love the flowers. So the flowers are always a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it will eventually set seed. The problem is the lettuce now down below tastes awful, really bitter.
Okay, interesting. Teresa's
Okay.
showing us. Oh no, she found iguana recipes.
And it is IFAS publication. I'm going to look that up and I'm going to find out who wrote it, and I'm going to get them on here as a guest.
There you go. You should do that. Chicken of the trees, iguana recipe ideas.
From what I understand,
I think the best way, they're doing that with lionfish. The best campaign to deal with an invasive species, if you can eat them out of being invasive, I think that is a fabulous idea.
Nothing wrong with that. And
Yeah.
from what I understand, they're good on the grill. So we'll find out though. We will start to incorporate more Florida friendly recipes, I guess, on here. So here's a question for Doc and Mrs. Lil. I see my broccoli and cauliflower heads. That's great. And you're just in time. If you have broccoli and cauliflower going and they're not to the point where they're making heads or producing at this point, we're getting late, guys. Time to really kick it up and get them to hurry. It's going to get warm really soon here before you know it. So now how do I get big heads? Be generous with water and fertilizer, 666 or 10-10-10, lightly once a month. And that's the best you could do to get big heads. Everything else is based on the variety, the exact growing conditions, how sunny it is, how warm it gets. Cauliflower hates it when it gets warm.
Mhm.
Broccoli just gets unhappy when it gets warm. It's a little bit more forgiving of
We've
warm.
been reaching like 86 the past couple of days. I think it's cooled down again today, but
Yeah, I have lettuce, broccoli, Chinese cabbage, and bok choy, both of which is starting to bolt. I'm gonna experiment with making kimchi, I think. So keep your fingers crossed. Kimchi is an acquired taste. Oh, I haven't told my wife that yet. I hope she's not watching today. Okay, don't mention that to her. She won't even notice what I'm doing in the kitchen. And
what is
radishes,
kimchi?
all of which need to be pretty much picked and enjoyed really soon. It's going to get hot real soon here, guys.
It's gonna get up to 80 today. But tomorrow it's the only high of 72, which will be fabulous, except it's gonna be raining with a low of 46. Saturday 73, 53. That's like perfect weather.
Yeah.
Sunday 76, 52. Perfect. Except it'll be raining.
My pool hit 80 yesterday.
Ooh, did you jump in?
Yay. That's tolerable.
Did you jump in with your 98-degree body?
Didn't have a chance to, but I tell you what, over the holidays when it was getting down to 27 overnight, the coldest I've ever seen the temperatures like in the 60s. I'm thinking, isn't that like Titanic water temperatures?
No, I would say there wasn't icebergs floating on it, so I don't think it was quite that.
No, it wasn't that cold. I don't want to get hypothermia in the pool, though.
Yes. Well, if you got a door in there, Nora won't let you on it, so you're out of luck.
So Corey pulled up some information on the type of marigold that you could plant and grow to help control nematodes. It's a popular bedding plant. These marigolds flower and they're pretty. You could use it as a cover crop. It's going to add organic matter to the soil. That's always a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it produces a substance called alpha terphenol, which can aid in the reduction of root knot nematodes and other disease-promoting organisms such as fungi, bacteria, insects, some viruses. Okay, helpful hint for today. Something else that kind of sanitizes the soil. It gets rid of or at least discourages nematodes, certain bacteria, other insects. It just makes your soil unfriendly for them. If you're growing a lot of broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage, take the green plant material, because broccoli, Lily, have you ever seen broccoli growing? Have you ever tried growing it?
Yes, and it got like this big, like just very tiny, and started bolting. I didn't know the word. It started flowering.
Yeah, the plants get a couple feet tall. It's a big plant, lots of leaves, lots of stem, and there's only part of it that you're going to take inside and eat. You can take the stems and make broccoli coleslaw out of it.
Sure.
But a lot of people, it's like, I don't want the stems. I just want the good broccoli part that I want to eat. Take all the rest, chop it up, turn it into your garden soil. Because those plants are all very high in sulfur compounds. When they break down in the soil, they're going to release it, and it chases nematodes away because sulfur is stinky.
What about lime?
Lime, you only want to put down lime if you need it. If you
Right.
need to raise the soil pH. A lot of us here in Spring Hill have fairly high pH to begin with.
I know some nematodes don't like a high pH, so that might be some people's solution, but it might solve your nematode problem, but you're also not going to be able to grow your the plant that you want to. It's just
Yeah, nematodes and diseases dislike really high pH or really low pH. So at extremes they don't like.
But what I've heard and why I kind of came to that question is our brown turkey figs um, have a nematode issue when you're trying to grow brown turkey figs. If you're trying to do that in your food forest or just
Yeah.
have it. And what I've heard is if you can put it as close to your cement block house as is reasonable or possible, that the line leaching off of the blocks actually discourages some of the nematodes that go after those brown turkey figs.
That may help because figs, if you have root knot nematodes, they're very susceptible to them. And they will kill your figs. Something else you can do is just grow your figs in a very large container.
There you go.
Like the whiskey barrels, the half whiskey barrels, you can grow a fig in them.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yep. That's big enough.
Speaking of soil solarization, I just remembered Jim Mall in Pasco County has always loved horticulture. So picture him as a 13-year-old boy running an experiment at home, deciding to sanitize some soil just dug up in the yard in Wisconsin, put it spread on a cookie sheet and put in the oven. It smelled.
That can work.
Oh, he said
it's effective, but I've been told it stinks to high heaven.
Yes, and his mother was extraordinarily unhappy with him. So
if you heat it to 160, you'll sanitize most things. There are things in the soil that can survive in resting spores, and you have to crank the temperature up higher than that. At commercial nursery operations, that's how they sanitize soil, potting soil, other things.
They have like autoclaves or something specifically for that? Oh, okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
You could do it in an autoclave, and they're designed where it vents the air out.
Okay.
Because you're autoclaving all kinds of stinky stuff in an autoclave in a lab. And it still gets kind of stinky. But
so don't take it home and just put it in your oven.
That's yeah. Don't bake soil to clean it up. You're gonna regret that. And we have a question about an issue with something making small holes about 2 inches in diameter that is eating strawberry roots, broccoli, and green bean leaves when they are small. What could this be?
Making holes?
Yes.
So would that be
strawberries, broccoli, and green beans are going to have different normal pests, but something that could and would bother all of them would probably be snails. So look for snails. You have to go out at dawn or at night to see if you have a problem with snails or not.
And what do you do if you do?
You can go to a big box store or look online. I'm sure they have it on Amazon too, have it delivered. It's called a molluscicide or snail killer.
Mm-hmm.
It's impregnated granules with copper.
What about beer? Copper. People say to put out beer, like a bowl of beer. All that's going to do is tell you if you have them, right?
Yeah, if you want to try trapping them, beer helps more with slugs and not as much with snails.
Sounds like
so you can attract them and trap them if you want, or track them to see if you have them or not. But it helps. Putting beer out in your garden doesn't really hurt anything. It's only going to be partly effective.
Except for you, because you've lost that bottle of beer. for yourself.
Yeah. And then raccoons and possums get into it. And possums are kind of wobbly to begin with on a good day. So we have a question, a very good question here about, I've heard people add nematodes to the garden to help other issues in gardens. What are good nematodes? There are certain species of nematodes that feed on pests. So obviously they're good things to have.
They're predators, yes.
Yes, so out in the real world, there's species of nematodes that feed on a variety of different things. So in the genus Steinernema or Habertitus, I think, I just mangled that word, and a
Nobody
few others.
knows, Bill. You could have totally made it up. We don't know.
Okay, Habertibitus or something. So 2 different groups of nematodes, and they have identified specific species, and then they've gathered them, put them in a package, made it so that they'll survive in the packaging, and you generally mix them with water and add them to your garden. These are nematodes that feed on things like lubber grasshoppers, beetle grubs, shorefly larvae, and other little pest fly larvae that live in damp soil. So if you take these nematodes, add them to your soil, they're going to kill your pests, either the larva or the adult, and help reduce their population. A lot of good information about them online. There are companies that you can order them from. You have to properly identify your pests to figure out exactly what nematode you need to purchase to control them. And not every pest has a nematode that you can purchase to help control it. But there are some out there that work really, really well. Okay, we're back on the iguana recipes here.
All right, now Corey wants to just split his iguanas wide open, apparently.
Good advice.
On the grill.
And people, please don't encourage him.
See, now Teresa wants him on here.
And I think this has to do with the kimchi that I'm going to make. I looked up a recipe and it seems very easy to make. So have you ever tried kimchi?
What they make by burying it in the ground in a
traditionally
container?
It's Chinese cabbage. You have to add salt to it. That kills the bad bacteria. You put it in an earthenware crock and you bury it. Yeah. I ain't going to bury mine. I'm going to put it in the pantry.
Okay. That's obviously different than what is that? Kombucha. That is.
Kombucha is a drink, isn't it?
Yes, it's a drink that you make off of this SCOBY. I don't know. Somebody was offering it to me here earlier in the week, and I told her that I teach.
Well, was it any good? Did you try it?
Did not try it. I told her I teach compost. I don't need to drink it. But I know people, who. I know my daughter-in-law was into doing it, and it's supposed to be very, very healthy for you.
Yes, kimchi is fermented cabbage relative, not green head cabbage, but Chinese cabbage and
I learned about
traditional
kimchi.
Korean food.
Yeah. See, you hit the word there. That's where I learned about it, about burying it in the earthen crock and stuff, because on MASH, they were afraid that they were planting, they saw them planting landmines, and it was kimchi.
No. Very good point. That was very creative and accurate writing. That's what they do traditionally over there, is you bury it. And let me jump on all the kimchi comments here. Corey says he makes his own kimchi. Just get the salt ratio right. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. And it is kombucha.
The drink, yes, with the SCOBY, with the floating blob of mold that makes the drink.
So sauerkraut, kimchi, and kombucha. Sauerkraut is mandatory on hot dogs or sausage that you're eating like a hot dog. Kimchi, good with any kind of Asian food, very good for you too. Kombucha, I've never tried. We'll put that on our, I actually keep a list here.
I don't know how Nora's going to feel if you try kombucha and she finds that in the kitchen. No, it is supposed to have wonderful.
She doesn't have to try it.
It does have wonderful health benefits from what I hear. Now, being a mostly German, a little bit of Polish, mostly German descent from southwestern Pennsylvania, I'll do sauerkraut all day long, no problem with that. So.
Okay, going back up to some questions here. Is mold in my containers bad? I use plastic grade 2.
Just clean it.
Do you think these are kitchen containers or pots for plants?
I'm thinking the black liner plants.
Hopefully pots for plants. Yes, you should always clean your pots. So because I start so many vegetables from seed, I start it in a little tray of 72 cells. It gets transplanted to a little 3-inch pot, bigger pot, sometimes even bigger pot to get it nice and big and healthy before it goes in the garden. You should always clean those containers out. If you use bleach spray and garden hose, it kills and sanitizes any leftover diseases and stuff that were in there.
Mm-hmm. And it's easier than to get mold on them if they're left outside in Florida. Anything.
Yeah. Mold, dust, dirt, old roots, old dirt. It's all potentially can carry diseases. It doesn't necessarily, but sanitation is very important.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently that rosy wolf snail, which we do have here in Hernando County and surrounding areas, it's a predator, so it's going to eat other snails. So always, before you start treating for anything, make sure you understand exactly what your problem is. So don't treat for snails until you know that you have a problem with snails and identify what kind of snails you have. And that snail killer, I'm pretty sure it's not organic because of the form of copper it contains, but I'm not positive. It's probably not labeled for organic production.
Is there an organic snail molluscicide?
No, nothing's really effective.
Oh, snail-eating snails. I thought she was.
But there are snails that eat other snails, so.
Sure.
And birds eat snails.
Yeah. They do.
And going back to that one question, so some type of animal that is making the holes in the soil. That could very easily be squirrels, mice, rats, possums. Possums love to dig and look for food. Possibly raccoons. Raccoons are going to make a huge mess. So there's voles. We do have garden voles.
What about those digger beetles that you have shared the blog about?
They don't bother plants. They just dig deep holes in sandy areas and make baby beetles.
Do you know what you call a guy who has just finished digging?
What?
Doug.
Okay, isn't it about time to wrap it up for today? As the conversation degrades, let's see, we've already shared some potential recipes. I got to put on here about we'll have to find an expert on kombucha and cooking iguanas on the grill. And we haven't gotten around to poop yet, but we still have about 10 minutes for that.
You brought it up. Did you share her solarization publication here? I think.
Oh, the publications all show up in the comments, and you can click directly on the link there. When we show it on the screen, they can write down this big long thing if they want, but it's a lot easier to click on the link on Facebook or YouTube Live that you're looking at.
Have you noticed the azaleas are blooming? They're starting.
No, I haven't noticed any.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I hadn't gone to downtown Brooksville, but I'm sure they're starting to bloom there. like Fort Dade Avenue has some houses with the blooming azaleas. Yep.
So
Starting to try to be spring, and tomorrow we're going to talk about spring. But does that mean winter's over? Punxsutawney Phil just saw his
Nope.
shadow, so that means 6 more weeks of. No, we don't have 6 more weeks of winter here, but well, actually, in a way, the danger of frost. The best way to put it is we are not out of the danger of having a freeze until sometime between March 15th and April 5th.
but we are getting close to spring, so now is the time to get busy preparing stuff for it, because before you know it, it's going to be hot every day.
Yeah. And we don't have it, we just don't have seasons that are neat. Like the other day, it was 86. I was out at the water tower helping release more thrips that eat the Brazilian pepper.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was hot. I got icky and sweaty. So, but just because it's starting to get really hot does not mean our danger of freezes are over, because our weather is going to be all kind of crazy. And if you watched the weather last night, there's like this swoop where it's under the swoop is, parts of Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, where it's nice, warm, balmy. Everything above that swoop is like in a deep freeze right now. And Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh area is going to get like in the single digits this coming weekend.
Yeah, because we're coming up on prime tornado season and tornado weather, and the weather here is going to be very changeable. It's supposed to rain tomorrow at about noon when we're doing that class. So,
no, it's a virtual class. It'll be all right.
Mm-hmm. And Monique points out that snail bait usually contains metallaldehyde, which is true. There is more than one snail bait, and the one that you purchase at a big box store homeowner can purchase, I believe, contains it also. I'm almost positive there is not anything on the package about it's organic or approved for organics.
So as an agent of UF, you can explain this. As I just said, I was helping other UF agents with this continual research program we have at in Hernando Beach. The only reason I'm involved with it, Bill, is because I have the key to get into the.
Yeah, they need you to let them in and out.
Yes. It's by the water tower in Hernando Beach. It's generally land that is owned by Hernando County Utilities, and we use it as a pit, which means not a hole in the ground, but a place to put building materials. There's old culverts.
Store things.
They store things. There's old cement culverts out there and all kind of. Also a whole ton of Brazilian pepper trees, which is a highly invasive tree. So this is the third time that I'm aware of that there's been a release. We were looking through to see if, we did find some damage that they're doing with them being a thrips. That type of thrips is a piercing, sucking thrips, though not one that gets all the way inside. So you see shriveled up leaves and stuff, mostly on the new growth, because that's what they want to eat, the tender, nice new stuff. So it was difficult to find a lot of evidence because it has been cold and those thrips are hiding. There's only one thrips found. Florida Friendly Landscaping found the one thrips. So when I start talking about this and being involved in this, people's first reaction is, oh, great, you're releasing the next invasive species. So in our time left, talk a little bit about how they do this. First of all, did UF release love bugs? Let's start with that question.
No, love bugs came here on their own. They're native to Mexico and Central America, and they moved here bit by bit on their own. They expanded their territory.
Okay, so your air potato beetle, this thrips that takes care of Brazilian pepper, what's the process? How does this happen?
Generally, about 10 years of research that's done here in Florida and also in Beltsville, Maryland. So they test the insect in question to make sure it doesn't eat any other non-target plants.
First, they went to where the tree or the plant is native to find what keeps it in checks and balance there.
Mm-hmm.
Then they bring that species back, and you're right, there's at least a 10-year vetting period. So people will say to me, are you telling me there's a bug out there that once it eats everything you brought it to eat, it'll just die rather than moving on to eat something else?
Yeah, it
Yes.
will.
Yes, it will. Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't know
You
how.
can Google it and read the research paper. You can freely look up the research report with all the particulars with the air potato beetle.
Mm-hmm.
And it was years of research. The number one thing they're looking for is host specificity. So if they're bringing an insect in here to eat a plant or help control a weed or control another insect, they have to make sure that they know exactly what the insect they're bringing in will feed on and what it won't feed on. And insects have host specificity. They're only going to eat certain things, and other things they will not eat.
We did release some more again, so that was fun. But what was pointed out to me is where you can see the damage, the shriveled up leaves damage.
Mm-hmm.
There was no berries, on that particular. Now, to me, first look, it looks like it's still a very healthy stand of Brazilian pepper, but I guess these things take time, and it's going to take time.
Sure, and they'll never wipe it out. They
Right.
just help control it and knock it back.
Right.
So let's go up to the top here and knock out as many questions quickly as we can. Going back to those containers, they were food grade containers from a grocery store. You probably want to use bleach spray and scrub the heck out of them, and then make a decision whether you want to hold on to those containers or if you want to chuck them and purchase some more to store leftovers in. We have a suggestion for cooking iguana with Corey and Bill. We will take that under serious consideration. Somebody found really large snail shells next to the edge of the lake. They're not the invasive ones, but very large.
They might be those apple snails, right?
Yes, Cindy, we have apple snails. One species is native. There's another one that's invasive. So we have both here in Central Florida. So you may have both or just one or the other.
Yeah, and the pelicans and other birds like those.
Yeah, birds eat both. So even the invasive ones are being at least kept under control.
Mm-hmm.
Lily, we have a suggestion for pineapple kombucha.
Okay.
Is it too late to start my seeds? No, it's not.
Okay,
Seed trays. Yes, you can.
Okay,
Teresa posted a link to what you should plant in February. And somebody has a tomato bush that's still producing. Tomato plants over time get older, weaker, less productive. You don't want to aim to have tomatoes grow for 10 years.
I can feel those tomato plants getting older, weaker, less productive. I know how they feel.
No. You want to aim to have tomato plants that are productive, that are giving you a lot of tomatoes. So if it's time for your tomato to go and be replaced, it probably is. I never try holding them over long. I'll let peppers and eggplants go during the summer. And if they survive on their own till fall, you could trim them up and they will reflush and you'll get more fruit off of it. Tomatoes, I never tried doing that. So they do not give awards for keeping your tomato plant going for 5 years.
We are in my favorite month here in Central Florida. I think February is my favorite. November might be my second favorite. And what's interesting about that is those are the two ickiest months up north. But they're so beautiful here because February is really when spring is starting. And, up north, when you think of spring, you could still get cold and have snows and stuff. The tulips are coming up through the snow. So it is spring-like here, and all these spring flowers will start blooming, but we're still in danger of frost and freezes. So
You can
don't
still
go
have
burning
them.
everything. Don't go crazy. Cleaning that yard. You'll want to because it's so nice out. But
Okay, Monique asks about what's the best way to check seeds for viability. Take a paper towel, get it moist, sprinkle a couple of the seeds that you want to check on the paper towel, fold it over, put it in a baggie, see if they sprout or not. If half of them sprout, you have 50% viability. If all of them sprout, you have 100% viability.
that is a pretty easy scientific experiment you presented there. And then you can throw the sprouts in for your food, like bean sprouts.
Yeah, you could.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody's planting asparagus for the first time ever. Asparagus doesn't do really well in Florida because we don't get cold enough during the winter for it. But I know people who have tried. Some people can do well with asparagus. I think the problems are, depending on where you live, it might not get enough cold, and it's short-lived here. Up north, you can grow asparagus, and your asparagus patch is going to be, it's where Grandpa planted asparagus 50 years ago. They just come back every year forever. So asparagus, good luck, but it could be a little tricky here in Florida. Here is a good question from Donna. She says, how to get rid of cucumber worms. Very difficult to control once we get them here. The best way to deal with them is avoidance. So plant your cucumbers, yellow squash, zucchini squash, things like that, early. Because cucumber worms are a little caterpillar that grows up to be a moth, a clear-winged moth. And maybe Teresa can pick up, post a link for the cucumber worms. But what they do is the caterpillar drills into your cucumber after it's formed on the plant, and now you have worms in your cucumber. Nobody wants that. They get frozen back all the way down to South Florida during the winter. And we got some really, really cold weather here in the 20s. So we do not have them right here, right now, is my guess. They are down in South Florida. When the weather warms up, they move north. And they fly and they march, boom, boom, boom. They move further north. And they're going to be here in Hernando County by April, May. So if you try growing any of those crops after April or May, you will have cucumber worms laying eggs on your plants. You can spray with BT, Bacillus thuringiensis, that helps, and spinosad, which also helps. But they're really, really, it's like banging your head against a wall trying to make the brick wall move. They're really hard to control once they get here. And then the warmer it gets, the worse the problem gets. You know, they move all the way up to the Carolinas. They're a pest all the way up to the Carolinas by August. So they do get here by a certain day, and it varies year by year. That is one of the benefits of having a cold winter with some really cold weather. It gets rid of certain pests.
Slows them down. Yeah. It opens your window.
They come back.
Yeah, it opens your window maybe another 2 weeks. That's about it. Yes.
And Corey points out the air potato beetles will not eat related species. You are correct. The winged yam, which is a very closely related species, they don't eat. They will nibble on it.
They'll taste it, but those, yeah.
Yeah, and that basically taste it. They don't eat enough to reproduce on it.
Yeah, we could have told you that, Corey. That was part of the process, is they'll put these plants, you know, in the, it's like a wheel that spins out. You know, they give these beetles, they raise them, and they'll give them close related species, like the winged yams. And then they'll move away from how more related they are to see if they eat them. And then, related or not, they're also going to try to feed, you know, any of these new insects that we brought in. They're going to try to feed them corn. They're going to try to feed them soy. They're going to try to feed them cotton. They're going to try to feed them any important economic crop that we have.
Agronomic crops, sugar
Agronomic.
beets.
Yes, yes. Turf, and all that, and also then they move on to, the plants, the attractive plants that we want. They go through this whole thing. Does any stage of this insect eat these? It takes a long time for this process. So.
And thank you so much, Teresa, for posting links to all these different University of Florida fact sheets. How about this? A blog post, in a real pickle with pickle worms. That sounds like a name that you would make up.
Yes, it would. That's from Charlotte County, though, so I didn't. Which banana title were you going to go with? Yours was pretty good.
Mine wasn't bad. The fourth one. Can't remember.
Yeah. Not the appealing? You didn't like the appealing one?
No, I like that one. Mm-hmm. I went with Grow a Backyard Bounty of Bananas.
Okay.
Because this is going to be an article for the Tampa Bay Times also.
Okay, cool.
I did like growing homegrown bananas. It's appealing. P-E-E-L.
Now you know who Dr. Lester goes to for all of his titles.
Oh, yeah, I'm terrible with titles. I pick growing bananas. That's the best that's the most creative you're getting out of me. And as always, thank you so much for Teresa. Couldn't make it through the day without you.
I think we need to wrap it up because we have a meeting. I just got to walk downstairs. You have to drive here, so.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and show my email real quick with any other further questions. Always feel free to shoot me an email. I will get to it as quickly as I can. Some days are better than others, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Some days things pile up for a few days, if you know what I mean.
So we're getting ready to have a groundwater guardian meeting on Groundhog Day. I don't know if that has any significance.
But hey, I'm getting free lunch and it's not going to be leftover pizza, right?
Maybe.
Probably not.
You have to come and see.
Okay, guys, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah. Depends on what I can find in the back of the break room fridge.
And I will be back here next Thursday at 10 a.m. I think I'm going to invite, and if she's available, have Teresa Badurick from Pinellas County come on and be a guest, or somebody else. Don't know who. I'll ask a bunch of people. Surely I could talk somebody into it, somebody that's free at 10 a.m. on Thursday. So,
okay.
So thanks again, guys. Until then, everybody enjoy the beautiful weather we're getting.
It's gorgeous, yes.
And go out there and get some work done in the yard. Get prepared for spring, although it's not spring yet.
Right.
And I will see you back here again next Thursday at 10 a.m. So
I'll see you. Well, if you join us tomorrow for Spring into Florida Friendly Landscaping, that's at noon. It's a lunch and learn. Bring your lunch.
Always something going on. Follow us both on Facebook to keep on top of everything.
You can eat lunch. We won't. We won't chew and teach, but.
Yeah. I'll be polite and not eat my lunch as I'm talking. So.
Yes.
Okay. See you next week, guys.
Right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.